some people here are often on our War is Not Green working group calls, which are the space to advance this campaign, and happens every 2 weeks. And this campaign, War is Not Green, is our work to bring together organizing for the planet against war, militarism, and imperialism. And that's really to say that it's our work to build a mass movement for our existence and in line with struggles around the world. Earth's Greatest Enemy really exemplifies that, because we're facing in a lot of ways and completely unfathomable threat. We're seeing escalation in US militarism and imperialism around the world, from Venezuela to Cuba to data centers around the country that are really a project of war, and now to renewed threats on Iran. And so that's a lot. And at the same time, this film is really one of the most powerful organizing tools that we have. And that's precisely because it gives us clear eyes to see the targets that all of our movements have, no matter what titles we've been siloed into. And so this call will talk a little bit about the director's tour of the film that Abby has been on for the past 6 months or so. And we'll also give some time for questions. And then for anyone who is down to stick around, we will have time within the second half of the hour to make sure that we can get as many eyes as possible on this film as we approach Earth Day, when so many of people's conversations and thoughts and organizing spaces will really be on the question of how do we fight for our existence and for the Earth that we live on. And so we'll have a bit of a planning session on that and really talk about how to advance all of the ways that this film is a unique organizing opportunity. We've been showing up to these screenings around the country and seeing and meeting people, talking to people, and it's really been an incredible experience. I recently rewatched the film, and every time I see it, it gives so much new, it really resonates in a different way, but it always gives us the same core message and the same core direction. And so I'm going to pass it over now to Jody Evans, CodePink's co-founder, and also an executive producer on the film, who can introduce Abby, who I saw coming in, I think, and start us off.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So welcome, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here and concerned about our campaign, War is Not Green, and here to be with Abby Martin, who is an amazing journalist, television presenter, activist, but also an amazing documentary director. We saw what she did was Gaza Fight for Freedom, where information is denied. Abby goes there and she tells the story that we need as activists. And so she's done it again with Earth's Greatest Enemy. So please, warm welcome to Abby Martin, our guest today. And Abby, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I know you're on the road nonstop, and also the mother of two. So I wanted to start out with just, we were together when you started this film, and I remember, we're going to go here, we're going to go there, we're going to tell this story and that one, and it felt very doable and manageable. And then you met the unfathomableness that war is on the planet. And so I wanted to just, before we go into your tour, what surprised you in the making of this? Because you started out with, oh my God, this is horrible. And now you've come to something else. If you could just share your journey in the making.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for hosting me. Thank you for all of the incredible work Code Pink does. I'm so excited to be here and to be working with all of you. I mean, first and foremost, I think like a lot of us in this chat and in this group, we know this stuff. We've known this. It's been so obvious. That's what Code Pink has been doing its entire existence. But to have the ability to synthesize that information and to really catalog it and interconnect all these issues that they've atomized us into our silos and co-opted our movements and superficialized them and sold them back to us. And so to take us back to that framework of this is the current enemy. I mean, this is where all the threads lie. And our initial kind of jump into the project was just trying to synthesize that statistic that we hear that the US military is the world's largest institutional polluter. I didn't realize at the time that that just meant the oil purchases on paper. So then, Jody, I mean, like you said, every stone unturned is another documentary subject. And so what seemed like a really straightforward thesis, which was cataloging the emissions and why they're not counted, turned into the gargantuan topic of the existential nature of US imperialism and how every tentacle is another prong of pollution, whether it's legacy contamination compounded with the waves of militarization, the testing subjects, the growth of the military, and then the self-feeding cycle of just the justification of the expanse. So to continue to pillage and plunder into every last drop of oil to necessitate the expanse and the maintenance of the arsenal. So you know me, Jody, I didn't stop. We just said, we got to prove it all. We got to do the impossible and to sit down and really synthesize everything that I just said in a 2-hour film. And I think we did the best possible job at that. And so to tie together these threads and to your last point about how has it changed, how it initially started of just this huge gargantuan monster that seemed like you couldn't tackle it or even prove anything because of how big it was, then turned into this motivating kind of optimism where I realized the response. I went into this thinking, great, we did it. Now let's get it out there and use it. And then I started seeing the effect, Jody. I started seeing active duty soldiers and veterans and conservatives and people who are totally green watching this and their brains getting rewired and them saying, I want to be a radical marine biologist. I'm going to leave the military. I'm done. I'm ready to effing fight. That's what my 20-year naval officer cousin told me, who came and just saw the documentary saying, I support you. I don't agree with your politics. And he's ready to go. So I think the potency and power of media, which is why we do this work. We know why these billionaire moguls are trying to control the message, because this is the power of the truth. And everywhere I go, I have my pulse on the public of the American people. People are starving for the truth and they're ready to fight. And they're sick of this. And we have Elon Musk shoving down a false paradigm and inverted reality down our throats. And so I just want to double down on the resiliency that I see, the sustained activism and action. And people are so motivated to use this as a tool to give ourselves a fighting chance. And so let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, so Abby, that's your storytelling capacity, because, you are able to tell a story that is so vast, but make it so personal, intimate, and relational so that people can feel it. That what you're just describing is what you did with the Gaza film, is you brought it home for people to be able to have a relationship with it. And so what propaganda does is it takes us out of relationship into another part of our heads that kind of then owns our hearts and minds. And you bring us back to our hearts and where we can be healed and have a relationship with the issues. So that's your genius. And, bravo for your capacity to do that. And I think you got those chops by being every day having to take the fathomness of what you were reporting on and make it have meaning to the people that were listening. So, that is your skill. Another question I have for you is, because I know how much work you did on this and how many gazillion hours of footage that you collected. I was thinking back to when we were in Glasgow and we were just really like, it was just becoming something people were talking about. And we were going around, did you know that war is the greatest contributor to climate change? And literally no one there knew, even though they were all, environmental activists at COP. And think about what you just described as the victory of moving that needle and giving people something meaningful. Because it doesn't, when you say the words that war is the greatest contributor to climate change, it's still an abstract concept, and you made it relational. But what did you leave on the editing floor besides like hundreds of hours of footage that you wished would have been in and you miss it?
Well, Jody, funny you say that. But to address your first point, I think that people trust movement journalists, and this is why I've always been really clear about my bias and advocacy as an advocacy journalist, as an activist. I'm an activist. I advocate very specifically for what I desire, which is the preservation of life and against this spiraling machinery of death and destruction. And so I think that it's refreshing for people, and I think you gain the trust of people who are the victims of these heinous brute force of imperialism, and to really tell those people's stories. And it really is an entry point for everyone at all walks of life, and that's what's so important about it. To know that we are the Iraqi child, we are the Palestinian living in the rubble. Everyone is us, and we are everyone, because the environmental catastrophe that we're facing has no borders. To your second point, what did I leave on the cutting room floor? Well, Code Pinkers would love this one. There is a whole section about Code Pink that's coming out as a mini doc, because as you know, you guys are being subpoenaed. You guys are being terrorized by the State Department, by the Trump mafia, because you are talking about the same issues that this movie addresses. So this is a really important facet of this, the lawfare, that legal battle that they're trying to it's a full frontal assault on our psyche, on our minds, on our reality, our physiology, and they're using the law to do it, to scare people like Code Pink members, because they are threatened. And they say it every day. They're admitting it. So there's a whole section with Jody telling this incredible story about Code Pink and bringing us through. But honestly, Jody, we had to leave so much on the cutting room floor, including this entire history section of how we kind of got here, how the permanent war economy was formed after World War II. And that's a really fascinating story too. So there's so much to tell. There's a whole mini documentary about Guam coming out, but Jody's words actually inspired the ending of the film, because it just resonated with me so much, of Code Pink's whole mantra that we get in its way. We get in these people's way, and at the very least, we don't let them do business as usual without us there. And boy, I was so inspired by just Code Pink during the Iraq War. So it's all a very full circle moment for me, and let's just keep bringing it forward.
Cool. Erin, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask some questions.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for being here and for all of everything that you're saying. And I think, I've watched the film around 3 times, and every time that I've watched it, there have been new parts that have stood out more, depending on, I think, what's happening between the few months in which I've seen it last. But also still, I think always there's the core emotion and takeaways really remain the same. Jody mentioned, I think, how the content and what we're facing is completely unfathomable, but also at the same time, you boil it down to such a specific, intimate moments, and you describe, I think, as fractals of destruction towards the end, which is an incredible way of putting it and a horrifying way of putting it. And at the same time, I think you point to really a clear target that brings every fractal together, which is the US war machine, its imperialism. And so I'm wondering, sort of, as you've been going throughout this tour to different cities over the course of an insanely tumultuous few months, how have the discussions at each tour stop changed over the course of it? And also, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions around sort of where do we go from here?
Yeah.
I'm curious if that has changed, how it's stayed the same, and sort of what you've learned in the interplay sort of between the documentary and the world surrounding it.
Well, I think that it's such a great point of how quickly things are ratcheting up under Trump, and how this film is an encapsulation of the status quo. That's the collective insanity that they have forced down our throats as acceptable, as normal. This is what the ruling class has presented to us as this is no other option, right? It's the end of history. And so I think that the conversations that I'm experiencing is basically tripling down on what I said before. I mean, people are so motivated because they realize how existential it is. I think we're at a really unprecedented moment in time with not only just the unadulterated, exposed nature of this new colonial, naked imperialism under Trump, where it's literally we are going to pillage every last drop of oil with Iran, Venezuela. Horrific, horrific. There's no pretense at all. So it's this hollowed out, bankrupt nature of the opposition that has fooled people for so long. So I think that there's so many things coupled together with the environmental crises, with like no potential jobs for young people with the advent of AI. What I am seeing right now is not only multi-generational movement, but the orientation of class warfare. And that has never existed in my, I mean, I saw that sprinkled during Occupy, but it still felt like we couldn't really point out reality for what it is. And now it is, Palestine has changed everything. Gaza has awakened the beast. I mean, the sleeping fucking tiger. Like this is what it is. It is so, they have lost the public so much, and that's why the propaganda has become so desperate. And that's why you see Zionism is so extreme and the propaganda and violence is so extreme, because they know that this is the only political capital they have left. They are going full throttle, full force, totally unregulated. They're attaching all of the policies onto Trump as the vehicle to do this because they know they have lost us. That's what I see in the inverse as the hope. We have a moment to seize that I have never experienced in my entire life. I'm 41 years old. I was on the streets for the last 20 years. I've seen the ebbs and flow of activism, of movement building, not as long as Jody, of course, but Jody, I feel like, has such crucial insight and gives me that optimism too, because of her spirit and energy. And I just continue to be motivated by the young people that I meet that are like, I'm not just gonna let this be normal. I'm not gonna enter this world having blown up kids be the status quo. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let these monsters rob my future and rob my planet. And so in the movie, to show people the beauty that's left, the beauty that we need to fight for and preserve, the conversations also are being centered around understanding now that Silicon Valley is our enemy. I think there's a lot of confusion with the Snowden leaks, kind of like, NSA is bad, Google good. There was a lot of hoodwinking with Silicon Valley, and these tech giants were our friends, and the tools are actually revolutionary tools to use us and aid and abet our movements, which to a certain extent they are. But now people are realizing that the new front of the fight needs to be these data centers, and that Silicon Valley is folded into the infrastructure of the system. So I think there's clarity like there never has been, and I think the stakes are so high that people realize that they have to be all in, that there's no choice. It's literally socialism or barbarism. And I think that is an incredibly salient moment. And this film has never come at a more opportune time to use it to spark these conversations and to continue to build our organizational capacity. Because without organization and movement building, fascism will just become more powerful. So we have to act quickly, and we have to act now. And this movie is just one more tool in the arsenal.
Yes, absolutely. You mentioned data centers, and we have a lot of chapters that are starting to build campaigns around it, really with the recognition of data centers both as a result of war making and resource extraction, and also for war making, the more that this tech oligarchy merges with the Pentagon and the war machine. And I think moving in that direction around organizing, you talk about this creating the film as an organizing space, and I'm wondering sort of it's been amazing to see all the different organizations signing on, really doing that work to break down movement silos. And I'm wondering sort of what has come out of sort of the tour stops as spaces themselves.
Yeah. It's amazing because this film is a lot. We're so inundated with bad information and false news and propaganda. So to sit down and have the clarity of facts and to have a wide-eyed bird's eye view of what this is, I think it's very incredible to see people's reaction to it, because they leave, actually, as daunting and dire as the situation is, they all leave actually saying, I'm empowered, because for the first time I feel my agency as a collective. I'm here with community. We've unpacked the trauma, the psychological terrorism, because that's what it is. They're terrorizing us in every capacity, every day, on every front. And it's how do you react even to everything is horrible and they're doing so much, they're ramming it all through. How do you react accordingly? And so to get in these spaces and let people feel, let people go through the waves of emotion, and because it's okay. It's okay to feel these emotions. None of this is normal, right? We shouldn't get accustomed to how awful what they're doing to us is. So what I'm getting out of it is building those organizations here real time. In every city that I'm going to, I make sure that I'm reaching out to every single progressive space, environmental sustainability organization, inviting them at the very least to be a part of this conversation, to be a part of how do we collectively organize and build a big tent around the fundamentals: clean water, clean air, fighting these data centers that no one wants, that aren't even creating jobs. And people are leaving motivated and inspired. And that's what I want. I don't want people to leave thinking we're effed, we're cooked. That's not what this movie is for. This movie is to make you feel like you have the power, because even though it is a collective international system of terrorism, right? Even though it's being upheld at the barrel of a gun, subjugating the planet, we need that international framework, and we need that lens to understand why things are happening. But then we need to act hyper locally. City councils are being taken over everywhere I go. The Rust Belt. People are like, yeah, DSA, PSL, pro-Palestine candidates. We have like 3 of them on our city council. There's a mayor in El Cajon who might win, who's a PSL candidate. Divestment successes all across the country. 25 data centers being shut down last year. These are the success stories that they are not showing us, because they want us to be paralyzed and brain rotted. So what I am seeing is all over the country, because I've been watching genocide too for the last 3 years. It's been hell for all of us. We don't know how to react to this. And we have protest fatigue. I am so motivated and inspired by everyone that I am meeting who is all in, because I've never seen anything like it. And they're ready to go, and they know exactly what's going on. And so that to me is the biggest takeaway, is I just want to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I can't anymore, until they drag me out of the house kicking and screaming and steal my devices, because I'm going to use that First Amendment till my dying breath, baby. It's a beautiful thing, you guys. And what I keep telling people, who I just met a person last night who was like, I don't know any of this. She just came up to me. She's 20 years old. She said, what do I do? I'm 20. What do I do? How am I supposed to take this information and carry it with me? I just said, just breathe. Just breathe. You have the community here. Join the organization, support the organization. You're not alone. You're not alone. And that's the first step, is to realize there's people here, and that's it. That's it. And we're here for them.
Well, Abby, what you're talking about is what we're here today about, is like, how do we join together for Earth Month and show as many people as possible? So you've really inspired folks on the call to like, here's the thing, here's the piece of information you can share. And before we let you go, it's just like anything that you've learned creating the tour, when you're organizing something locally. As an organizer, like everybody meets it with, oh my God, it's so big. How do I make it happen? And in the beginning, you said, how do we get it out there? But you're also saying that getting it out there hasn't been as hard as you expected, because the community has been hungry for it. And then after the hunger and bringing their friends, they've been ready to engage.
100%.
So, are there any words of wisdom you want to drop to the folks that are going to sign up tonight and do something locally?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. This is the best possible way to hold events and to build our organizations and movements, is to try to build that big tent. This is the perfect issue to do it. People are ready to hear it. They've been watching genocide. They know peripherally that this is happening. I wear that shirt that Aaron's wearing right now that says the US military is the world's largest polluter. Everywhere I go, gas station attendants, barista, working class folk are just like, yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm telling you, it is a fire that has been lit, and they are waiting for us. Putting flyers up because obviously PSL, Code Pink, they've been the infrastructure of this whole tour. And so I'm getting that immediate and direct feedback of that grassroots organizing, door to door, business to business. People are starving. They're excited. That just where I went last night at a taco shop, the guy was like, I want to go tomorrow. What is this movie about? Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, Jody. So what I would say is use it to hold events. We are going to get this up and streaming. So we're going to let this baby fly, and hopefully it'll go on its own once we get the licensing and go through the legal hoops, hopefully in May. But until then, anyone can screen it. Please host your screenings anywhere. And it's just the perfect opportunity to build it, because protests are amazing, but people don't know where to put the energy next. And these are the spaces that we need to open up. We need to let people unpack the trauma and give them a safe space to talk about this, because they're starved of that community and solidarity. And that is what the ruling class is terrified of the most, is us getting together and starting to talk about these issues and putting those uncomfortable truths in front of the people we know and love and saying, here, watch this, watch it.
Great.
And it's working, Jody. It's working. And I do feel the power of this message. And I know everyone on this call does too. Otherwise you wouldn't be here tonight. We have a chance, you guys. This is our moment. This is our moment.
Well, I'm going to bring in a teeny bit of Venezuela right now
Do it.
because, um, you know, when we're talking about how hard it is and like being in Venezuela, where they organize so well and where they really have local peace economies and these 5,000 communes, and to be with them after they just got hit with missiles and their president was kidnapped, right? Imagine it's like having an earthquake. We know, so after that, I thought, oh, what am I going to come to? What I came to was joy and celebration and engagement and know those fuckers aren't going to get to us.
Mhm.
And so I just want to share that with y'all that like even with like bombs they could see from their windows. And I know they're still shaking inside, but the being in community, working together, keeping each other educated, which is like what happens in Venezuela is like
Yeah,
Chavez on the television all the time, educating, educating, educating. So at Code Pink, we say educate, inspire, and activate. So Abby, you are the educator, inspirer, and activator. And we're looking forward to, as this team here, being able to deliver a lot of screenings for Earth Month um,
amazing,
before
amazing,
you go online and digital.
amazing,
Then we have
amazing. And so you can
another
check it
layer of
out.
people to share.
Yes, you can check it out at earthsgreatestenemy.com. There's a banner right there that says book for Earth Day. Let's go. And there's a sheet that kind of gives you the layout, lay of the land, where we can host ticketing for you. We can help you promote it. We'll put it on the official tour listings. I'll help you put it out there. And if my schedule allows, I'd love to join for Q&A because I think it also helps kind of unpack all of this. Whatever you need, we are in this together. Like Bernie says, it's not me, it's us. We're going to win, and we need this message to get to every single person in America in the imperial core. It's never been an option for me, but now it certainly is not when I have two kids on this planet. So let's go, you guys. We got a lot of work to do, and I'm here with you to do it.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you.
Much
Okay,
love, Jody.
Thank
I
you so
love you
much for
guys.
joining, Abby.
we're gonna organize now. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
So we have 107 people on this call, and I think if you all are inspired by that, if you are energized, if you believe in the unity of movements and the mass movement that we can build, this is the part where we're going to ask for participation. But also with the amount of people here, there's such a necessity for us to not leave, and to, we need to organize, which means talking to each other, which means talking to everyone on this call. And so we are going to talk now about how to set up screenings of Earth's greatest enemy, and we're going to start planning that in the moment. But before we turn off the live stream and recording, I want to invite some folks who have already done some of this organizing, who have already planned screenings for Earth Day, and have already been at screenings, to talk a little bit about that process. So I'm going to start with the incredible Grace from Chicago.
Hi, thank you guys so much for inviting me to talk about the screenings we've already had in Chicago and the ones that we are going to have for Earth Day. This is very Chicago specific, just the processes, but there's everything I'm saying you can do in your own city, whether it be through local theaters, whether it be through 501c3s, everything can be translated very well to where you are, but I'm just sharing our experience. I work at Code Pink on a national level, but I'm also part of our local Code Pink Chicago. And we have a lot of very great connections with different art centers, media centers, and local theaters, like a place called the Lincoln Lodge here in Chicago, which is just a local comedy club. And we'd foster really good relationships with them. We've done comedy shows, we've done mutual aid groups with them. So it was really easy to talk about doing a screening for Earth's Greatest Enemy at the Lincoln Lodge. So it was super easy to set up. And because we didn't have a budget, for the screening fee, we did a split the costs for tickets instead, and that was a super easy transition. And it was because Empire Films is a 501c3, and so is the Lincoln Lodge. It was easy to transfer and use that space and those fees easily. We got a date and time coordinated with both the Lincoln Lodge and Empire Films around Earth Day. So we booked a space. They have 3 different theaters that we were able to book for a little over 2 hours. And like a lot of folks do already, we had a venue that set up the Eventbrite and we had it on the Code Pink website. So it's super easy to manage the ticket sales and still get engagement through the Code Pink site as well. So make sure you're always doing that. Erin's always happy to help with that. I am too, to set up events on our website. And then, yeah, we were able to use that Lincoln Lodge space then and give half the ticket sales to them and half the ticket sales to Abby via the donation page at Empire Films. And it was a good way to sustain the friendship and the relationship with the Lincoln Lodge and with Abby's production company. And then they moved us into the bigger space after we were splitting the ticket sales. And we were able to invite more people and have more tickets be sold. And we also reached out to other organizations and coalitions throughout Chicago that are now co-sponsoring the event. So it's a great way to get engagement with your chapter, but also people that you are in coalition with that have a stake in this film, have a stake in ecocide and genocide and militarism, which we all have a stake, but it's a way to express that and to build community. And I just learned so much from Abby and Erin and Jody in this process. So I'm very grateful to have been a part of it and to hopefully help all you to do the same thing. So that's all I have to say on the Chicago side.
Thanks, Grace. And also just want to say that so many of you have been to the screenings and flyered, and out of, the flyering at the screenings have been about getting the Sierra Club to come and see it, because the whole idea is getting the environmental movement to engage with the anti-war movement. So I'm in LA, and we've been successful in getting the head of the LA Sierra Club, which is the biggest, to screen it for Earth Day. So some of us are already like moving into the task of what we flyer about. I see some hands up. So we're going to break up into breakouts. But before we do, I think we have one other example of somebody who's just setting one up now. Is that right, Erin? Or were you going to talk about Philly?
So we might have some folks from Philly on this call who would be able to talk about their experience in helping to put together a screening a few months ago. Are there folks here?
Barbara.
I think I saw from Philly, I think Julia might be on the
Julia?
call.
Oh. So before we get to Julia,
Oh, okay.
maybe Erin, you could talk about just exactly oh, there's Julia. Cool. Let's hear from Julia, and then we'll talk about what everybody can do, and we'll break into breakouts.
Okay, hi everybody. Sorry, I just am joining here. I'm coming from our chapter meeting, and prior to that, an International Working Women's meeting. So I'm a little bit on my 3rd meeting in a row right now. But let me tell you just a little bit how our process went in Philly. We were interested in doing the film. We actually had this conversation with someone that's in our group that's also a member of Extinction Rebellion, and they were very excited to partner with us. So starting out with a really strong partnership, and then we brought in a number of other organizations as well to co-sponsor. We worked very closely with Abby. We set up a signal chat, just kind of logistically how we did it. We set up a signal chat, and Abby was right in there and helped us with the planning process. We scouted out a location in our community to do the event that worked out to be fantastic, really a great location, who's very supportive of our community work that we do. And, really we had very little to do with kind of the financial aspects of that. Actually, Abby handled a lot of that. But we did a lot of the promoting work. We had folks do tabling that night. We helped find a photographer for the night. We had one of the members of our group was the MC for the evening. So we kind of, through that signal planning chat, we just went through and we used the kit that Erin provides for for putting the screening as kind of our guide. put all the pieces together, and it just went beautifully. And it just was really, it wasn't difficult to do it all. And it was such a big success. We had tons of people come out. We met a lot of people. It was just fabulous. I don't know if anyone else is here from the Philly group that wants to add anything, but.
You did an awesome job. Thank you so much. And I'll see you soon. All right, so quickly, Erin will run over, there's like the how-to. And, first of all, today is the first of the how-tos. Sign up to do one. And then if you're part of a local, Erin will coach you. And if you're not in a local community, I'll coach you, and we'll go into 2 different breakouts. So the first thing is, you say, I want to do it. And then you decide whether you want to put up the $300 or split the ticket prices. And then we start setting you up into the process. And then you do the organizing to get people to come and find partners in the environmental movement, the peace movement, to join with you for Earth Month. The best time to do it is Earth Day night, because people are really like conscious that day of, this is the day I need to do something for the planet. But we're calling the entire month of April Earth Month. Erin, what else do they need to know before we break up?